Unsyndicated presents What the Puck with Sean Belegian.
Welcome to another edition of What the Puck here on the Unsyndicated Network. My name is Sean Belegian, Mike Iversel in the house. We're joined by a legend. I was just joking with him before we came on. I mean, in every joke, there's a little bit of truth that I think every kid growing up in Livonia, Michigan, looked up to this guy in his time, not only with the Rangers, but certainly with the Detroit Red Wings, because not only was he a heck of a hockey player, 274 career goals, 620 points. But I think every kid that played hockey wanted to have the flow that Ron Duguay had. Kindly joining us right now on What the Puck is Ron Duguay. And Ron, really appreciate you taking the time and chat with us tonight. How are you?
I'm doing well, Sean and Mike. I'm always I enjoy talking hockey. I love talking about the past. Of course, the future is always important, where the game is going, but the past is always fun because I was part of the past. And I always get reminded of stuff that I've done, as far as it could be my looks, my activities, things on the ice, teams I've played for, players I've played with. There's so much there that I don't realize how much I have to share, and I don't mind sharing because for the most part, it was all very good.
Yeah, so if we could, I'd like to take you back to the beginning of your NHL career. Nowadays, the NHL draft is a huge event. You go 13th overall to the New York Rangers. What was draft day back in 77?
Well, it was very little. There was very little even leading up to the draft day. Not much anticipation. I had my agent at the time was Al Eagleson, and there wasn't much conversation other than I thought, well, I had a good idea that I was going to go in the first round. And but even backing up to my draft day, the year before, as an 18-year-old, I thought I was going to get drafted as an 18-year-old, and that was the year that they decided to move the age group to 19. So I thought I was actually going to get drafted as an 18-year-old, which wasn't the worst thing for me. I don't know if I was ready to leave my mom's cooking and living at home because I'm from Sudbury, played for the Sudbury Wolves, and I was very comfortable. And that says a lot for junior players that are at home versus having to move and go into another city, especially if you're going as an underage. So I was very comfortable. I don't know if I was ready to leave as an 18-year-old, but it happened as a 19-year-old. When I look back, it was a good thing. Now I'm a little more of a mature man. But leading up to the draft, it's not like today. And now it's a show. It's showtime, right? And back then I just remember getting a call the following day, and it was Al Eagleson. And he basically told me that I got drafted by the New York Rangers, first round, 13 overall. Also in the WHA draft, I was 4th overall by the Winnipeg Jets. So he tells me this, and there's no discussion. He's essentially telling me, this is where you're going, and we've already negotiated your contract. This is how much you're making. And I, a young man, I didn't know any difference. I said, oh, okay. It all sounded good because it was like a 3 or 4 year deal, first round, first overall, going to the Rangers. And I couldn't even think of Winnipeg or New York. Where do I want to go, right? Although Winnipeg was very similar to growing up in Sudbury. Winnipeg would have been fine, so I ended up in New York. But I remember there was a whole lot of conversation. He basically told me what I was making. There was no, what do you think? What are you thinking? What about this? What about that? That's what it was like back then. The relationship with the agents and the teams and the owners in the league, they were all in cahoots with each other, right? Trying to make it fair. But we find out later the share of the pie wasn't necessarily shared properly. And so I can remember I got the call 10 a.m. It was around 10 a.m. because it was a Saturday morning. I'd gone to a party, so I was a little hungover that morning. And I remember going upstairs because I'm living at home, telling mom and dad, I said, so this is the deal. So I'm Rangers, this is the kind of money I'm making. You know, for my parents, like, wow, that's a big deal. It was both going in the first round, but the kind of money I was making, right? Because they're not seeing that kind of money. So it was all very good. And I remember going back to bed, and that was it. That was it. Like maybe 3 weeks later, I ended up in New York on the big meet everyone, sign the contract and all that. But there was no buildup whatsoever.
Unbelievable.
Wow.
Ron, I want to talk to you about your time in the O, because I was very fortunate to work for the Plymouth Whalers when they were around. Worked there for 14 years. No offense to you. A great final in 2007 against Sudbury. I tell this to anybody that'll listen. I love the National Hockey League. I love college hockey. There's something special about major junior hockey. There's something special about the OHL. And obviously it's changed a little bit since those days, but I'm sure that was a blast for you playing for the Wolves.
Well, playing for your hometown team, absolutely. Because instantly you become a young man, young celebrity. And so when you're treated in a certain way, I think it brings the best out of you. And playing in front of family and friends, I really enjoyed that. So when you look at the major junior league back then, it was the highest level of amateur hockey. The best players in the world was mainly Canadians playing in the league. There weren't many Americans. It was probably 98% Canadians, a few Americans. I don't even know if there was any Europeans back then, but it was the highest level. It was essentially getting you ready for the NHL. So when I played, I think it was my first year was 73s, 4, 5, 6. The league then was trying to keep up with what it looked like to play in the NHL. Now you look at the NHL, you had the Flyers, right? Playing the way they did, the Bullies, and they win the Stanley Cup a couple times, playing the way they did, which was intimidating your opponent. So major junior turned that way. So all of a sudden, I'm a 15-year-old, and it was tough. It wasn't easy. You had to grow up really quick, and so it essentially took me a couple of years to kind of get used to it, but it got me ready to play in the NHL the way the NHL was being played.
Yeah, and I was going to go to, with your time at Sudbury and how successful you were, you got invited to what me and Sean call the greatest tournament in the world, the World Juniors. I think it was the 5th tournament that they had. It's the first one to go on record with the IIHF. You were over in Czechoslovakia, 5 points in 5 games. Tell us about your experience there. We love watching that tournament.
Well, thanks for sharing 5 points in 5 games. I don't remember that. You know what I remember is us. We had a really good team, and I went over with back then it was the team that won previously, which was Hamilton. So they got to pick a couple of players to go with them. It wasn't the best players out of Canada. It was the team that won the Memorial Cup. I don't know if you know that.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it was. And so I went over with, I think, Davey Hunter from the Wolves, went over, and, Dale McCourt was the captain. So we had a good team. We should have won. We lost in the finals to the Russians. That's what I remember. I remember being there because it was so different being in Czechoslovakia. Back then, it was barbed wires and men with machine guns and going to the border. And it's like, wow. Okay. And it was there 2 weeks, and it was during the holidays. I'd never been away from home. It was 2 weeks away from home. But at the end of the day, what makes something where you remember is winning. And we lost in the finals, and we lost to the Russians. And I would love to see the players who had played on that Russian team, because I don't remember the names. But it was a good experience only because being asked to play on an all-star team representing Canada, it's always big. So in my trophy room over here, I have that jersey where I can say I played as a junior, and I also played as a professional Team Canada, I think Team Canada 81. So everything becomes a learning experience. It's either going to be good or bad. Even bad is good, because when bad happens, you learn from bad and you want to get better. Good, well, it builds your confidence, right? So either you're happy or angry. It's one of the two.
Ron Duguay kindly joining us. He is going to be in town along with the Ranger alumni. If you saw the first game, the Bruins taking on the Wings alumni back in September, it was a fantastic event. This one, I think, is going to be even bigger. GH Pastor Foundation for Kids, they raised $27,000 last year. Of course, Ron Duguay going to be a big part of the Rangers alumni team. Ron, you were part of one of the most memorable series, I think, in Rangers history, really until they won the Cup again in 1994. Here you are, you're in the league a couple of years, and you get thrown into the fire of the Islanders-Rangers series. And I think people forget in 79, the Islanders were everybody's favorite. They were the team that was finally going to knock off the Habs, who had won 3 in a row. And you guys had another idea. What an experience that must have been for a young player like you, just a couple of years in the league, to be thrown into everything that is Isles Rangers at that level.
Yeah, and I think that it's beneficial for a young player to go through it early, so you have a feel and have a taste for regular season hockey and playoff hockey. And that's what when teams are looking to add players at the trading deadline, they want players that have been through the playoffs and been successful in the playoffs, that know what it's like. Can they elevate their game? And so I went through it at an early age. And when you look at the guys that were on that team, we had leadership from Phil Esposito, Carol Van Ney. I can't remember some of the older players, but we had a good mix of older and younger. But it was Freddie Shero was our coach at the time, and he kept things happy and simple. That was the thing with him. He came up with a plan and a strategy, team-wise, on how we were going to play. And a lot of it had how we were going to play offensively and defensively, and it was a good mix. And so we were well prepared. There wasn't a whole lot of pressure on us. And the reason that we got into the playoffs is that we became a team. Like, we're a band of brothers, because Freddie allowed us, he allowed the leadership in the dressing room to take over and to make decisions on how we were going to perform. So that, which was Phil Esposito. Now, Espo had won Stanley Cups. So he knew that we're going to work hard, practice and games, but we're also going to have a lot of fun. So we had a lot of fun. Off the ice, we had a blast. And so that kind of carried us through the playoffs. So the younger players were tight, but we got close with the older players. JD was our goaltender, and we were just having a blast on and off the ice. We looked forward to being together. By the time we got to the playoffs, we just felt like we're going to go all out. We're going to do our best. We're going to follow Freddie Shero's techniques. It worked. And one game led to another. The next thing you know how it is. You build some confidence, and we're in the finals. Now, we're in the finals against Montreal Canadiens, who, when you look at the team back then, they had a whole bunch of guys end up in the Hall of Fame. We might have run out of steam because we had too much fun. But for me individually, just getting there, I understood the difference between – you look at my numbers in the playoffs compared to regular season, scoring goals, big goals. I loved it because it was the energy of Madison Square Garden, but it got me where the regular season meant less. If you're not winning the Stanley Cup in the regular season, you win the Stanley Cup in the playoffs. And so I was always so fired up for the playoffs. I loved it because, playing at the Garden, the Ranger fans there were so supportive. So it was important for me, and I say this for all the players, if they have a chance to get in a long series in the playoffs, it gets you to be a better player. Either you're going to be a better player or you're going to shy away.
Ron Duguay kindly joining us here on the show. Again, I want to remind people, he and the Ranger alumni, it is April 27th out in Fraser, 2:00, an incredible roster. Ron, I'm looking at some of these names. Johnny O, Kevin Miller, Kelly Miller, Darius Kasparaitis, Sergio Momesso, Tom Laidlaw, Aaron Ward, a guy much like you, played in both spots, King Henrik, Broadway Bernie, just to name a few. It's going to be a great event, certainly for a great cause. If I may, very quickly, what was New York like in the late 70s? Studio 54, it's been so dramatized. Here you are, a good-looking, obviously darn good hockey player on a darn good team. I can't imagine what that was like in the late 70s.
No, when I got traded to Detroit, I'm like, where is studio?
How big of a shock was that going from
no
New York to
Studio
Detroit?
54 in Detroit,
Yeah.
which was a good thing for me. Listen, I will have to do an interview at a later date because I can talk about this forever, right? It was, the place opened in 77. I just gotten there. It opened in April. I got there in September. I was introduced to Studio 54 from a good friend who's passed away, Rod Gilbert. And coming from Sudbury, I mean, I like dancing, I like music. So it was a combination of everything. So I was just a young man just enjoying what New York had to offer. Like, I had boundaries on myself, make sure I'm home by 4 a.m. And but it was just I stayed out of trouble, but I liked to have fun. And so I was happy. I was happy all the time. I'd show up to practice. I was happy. I was having a good time. I never took things too seriously. I never took things too far. And I just, I had, meeting very interesting people. One of them was Andy Warhol, which he ended up putting me on the cover of his magazine Interview. And from that, it opened up a whole bunch of doors. But at the end of the day, for me, hockey was most important. If I wasn't performing, had to score goals, none of that made a difference. So I had to have that balance of having some fun and scoring goals and winning. And so I think I managed to do that.
That kind of answered my question. You said you came to Detroit, there was no studio, and in the 2 years you were in Detroit, you had some of your best offensive years, even tying Steve Yzerman for 89 points the 1 year. And I was going to ask you what attributed to the increase in your offense, but how about sticking with a guy that we love, Steve Yzerman? Could you see at that young age how good Steve Yzerman was going to be?
Well, Jimmy Devellano was a manager at the time, and they brought me in and they said, listen, we have this young kid we drafted, and we're thinking about having you play with him and then Johnny Ogrodnik. And I thought, well, it certainly looks good on paper. And then it clicked right away. Stevie, very young, I think he was only 18 at the time. You can see his skill set with the puck control. And when you describe one player to another, you can use the word hockey IQ. And so you can tell, like with a Gretzky, Lemieux, Stevie Yzerman, there's a hockey IQ, which is knowing the game, knowing how to play the game, knowing how to manage the game, knowing where to be, what to do, and all of that. So you can see Stevie, his managing of the puck as a winger, knowing that I was in good hands with a guy that knew how to utilize his wingers, which was Johnny and I. When to move the puck, when not to move the puck. And I think that the adjustment he had to make early on, he was holding on to the puck a little too long, only because he had just come out of junior hockey, was able to do that. So once he learned to just kind of give it a go and get it to us, because Bo, Johnny, and I were pretty quick and we could shoot. So he knew that he had to have a balance of him doing what he does best, managing the puck as a centerman, and then utilizing his wingers. And so once we got that going, we were a point a game. I think I was a point a game almost through the 3 years. But I really enjoy Stevie, not only for his skill set, but as a person. Nicest guy. Stevie didn't say very much, but he was very competitive. And, as you guys got to witness, he led the team to a Stanley Cup. So he had that leadership quality. He was quiet at the beginning, but slowly he grew into the captain of the Detroit Red Wings that end up winning some Stanley Cups. So I appreciate the fact that I had that opportunity to be part of, which was Ilitch's family came in. Jimmy Devellano wanted to change things. It was the reboot of the Red Wings. I was part of that. Unfortunately, I didn't stay long enough, but I was part of that, and they went on to win 2 Stanley Cups.
I know you're up against it. You have some things to do tonight, Ron. We can't thank you enough for your time, but what a unique perspective you have to see a not quite ready for prime time Steve Yzerman and to see a young Mario Lemieux. And you're talking to 2 guys that are in the Mario Lemieux fan club. Honest to goodness, I think when we talk about the greats, I'm not sure that Mario gets his due, but that had to be quite an experience for you as well to see him at such an early stage of his prolific career.
Yeah, I mean, I've had the pleasure of playing with Stevie. And then from Stevie, they traded me over to Pittsburgh, and now I'm playing with Mary Lemieux. And then I ended up in LA and playing with Gretz. Now Gretz was in his prime. So Gretz was in his prime, right? He had scored a few goals, gotten a few points. Mario was just starting, and I was with Stevie just starting. Two different players, but both of them very quiet leaders, and just really, a centerman. The genius of how they managed the puck and how they saw the game. For me, I played at a fast game. For them, they would slow the game down and manage the puck, make some moves, beat guys one-on-one. I was like, I would rather dump and chase, get the puck, go in the tough areas. But they played a different game, which that's why we all have a different gift as hockey players. And that's why a good coach knows how to play players within what their skill set is. So very similar players, just that Mary is 6'4". Stevie, I think, is only 6 feet tall. But still, when you look at their numbers, Stanley Cup winners, leadership, and that's what's most important, is knowing how to bring a team together, be that leader, wear that C, and get the team to play, and you carry that team behind you in a quiet way. Both of them, even Gretzky, very quiet guys, but they just perform on the ice.
Ron, we could sit and talk to you all night. I know you got some things to do on a Thursday night, but I can't thank you enough for the time. And seriously, cannot wait to see you and the Rangers alumni come here. Once again, it's April 27th out at Big Boy Arena in Fraser, 2:00 in the afternoon. An incredible roster, including this guy, Ron Duguay. You're a class guy. Everybody speaks so highly of you, Ron. I think that's something to give yourself on a pat on the back for. How's that? And you were certainly classy with us as well. Thank you so much for your time. Really, really appreciate it.
All right. Well, good talking with you. I look forward to April 27th. I look forward to going back to Detroit. I have fond memories there. And let's find another Studio 54.
Yeah, there we go.
Have a good one. Ron Duguay kindly joining us here on What the Puck. What a great guy. Mike, we could have sat there and talked to him all night. In fairness, you know what? He said, listen, it's happy hour tonight. So can we keep it to 20 minutes? And we said, no problem. But class act.
A lot of the stuff there.
I know.
I mean,
Canada Cup.
And it's absolutely. And it's coming up on our chat here that how just hearing old stories like that, that's great. I could listen to those forever.
You and I, and you know, I'm a nerd, okay? I think if you've listened to me before, the stuff that I remember, that series in 79 was unbelievable because everybody thought that the Islanders were the team to beat. They finished number 1 overall, and the Habs, Scotty's last run with the Habs, they had won 3 in a row, and everybody thought, no, the Islanders are the future. And it wasn't to be yet because the Rangers knocked them off in what turned out to be a great series. And then the Habs, after losing game 1, took the next 4 from that Ranger team. And I agree with Ron. I think simply put, they ran out of gas. It didn't hurt to have the big 3 back there. I mean, when you are facing defensemen like Sir Savard, Guy Lapointe, and a guy by the name of Larry Robinson, you're just not going to get a whole lot of quality scoring chances. Oh, by the way, Ken Dryden's in net too. Right. So the way they shut him down in that series really jumped out to me.
And that loss didn't hurt the Islanders too much.
They went on to win the next 4, as a matter of fact. It's amazing how that works itself out. But again, you know what? I want to bring this up before we tell you about one of our new friends. It's the G.H. Pastor Foundation for Kids. There were $27,000 donated last game, that game against the Bruins back in September. It benefits CMN, Epilepsy Foundation of Kentuckiana, and the Judson Center. The Stanley Cup will be out there, de la Coupe Stanley. Vladimir Konstantinov will be out there, Karen Newman, online auction, game jerseys, and then there's a VIP party at Cicerelli's afterwards with a meet and a greet, and it's outstanding. Hopefully we see each and every one of you out there. I know you had other things going on in September. Hopefully you can come out there with me once again on April 27th at 2:00.
April 27th, I think I'm going to put that on my calendar. I don't think I have anything.
Okay, well, you can drive with me.
Yeah,
you can just drive out there with me.
I'll open it up right now.
Hey, listen, before we start talking about some other things, and one of the things we want to talk about is, might we see a 70-goal scorer in the National Hockey League? I mean, the crazy thing is, it's been 31 years. I want to tell you about our newest friends at Legacy. Fantastic guys. I had lunch with these guys a couple days ago. I want to give a shout out to each one of them, Joe and Alex and Dave, great guys. And I want to tell you, did you know that thousands of Metro Detroiters have already called Legacy Partners to get help with their home and auto insurance? You should as well. They're great guys. They are now friends of ours. And our friends at Legacy Partners are one of Southeast Michigan's top independent insurance agents and provide a full-service, one-stop solution for all of your insurance needs, personal and business, large or small. Guys, I personally vouch for them. Quality guys. Mike, they're big hockey fans too. I had to throw that out there. Yeah. Legacy has helped our listeners by fixing mistakes other agents have made, asking the right questions to get the right coverage put in place to properly protect you. And oh yeah, they help you save some money as well. So chances are, if you haven't checked your policy in the last year, you're probably paying too much and you could be underinsured. What are you waiting for? Give my friends, Legacy Partners, a chance to help with your home, your cars, life insurance, Medicare enrollment, or your business insurance needs. Give them a call today, 586-209-4106. That's 586-209-4106, or visit legacypartnersins.com to get started with your new quotes. Tell them that we sent you. They're great guys. I vouch for them, and they're hockey guys. So if you're watching this, you're a hockey guy. Trust a hockey guy. Trust Legacy. No doubt about that. Thanks again to Joe and Alex and Dave. It was great chatting with you guys, getting to know you guys. Mike, as sure as the sun sets, the Toronto Maple Leafs are going to have an early exit from the playoffs. You know it. I know it. Let's not mince words. Okay, you know it too.
Yeah. Did you like the meme I sent you about
that?
I knew you would. Early in the morning.
I liked it a lot.
Even early in the morning, you don't mind something about Maple Leaf.
Isn't it amazing though when you think about it? In 1992, 1993, Alexander McGillney scored 76 goals. And a rookie from Finland by the name of Teemu Selanne, perhaps you've heard of him, scored 76 goals. Mike, it's been 31 years. But listen, if you haven't been paying attention, Austin Matthews scored again last night. He's right about on pace to get 70. Do you think he does it?
A hard no.
No.
I'm going to, first of all, I'm going to watch. The Leafs are one of my regular season watches all the time just because of the talent that
100%.
Right? So
what's wrong with Tavares, by the way? But go ahead.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Hey, the hard no is there's two things I think that are going to work against him. One is he's too streaky.
Mm-hmm.
In the first 48 games is where he scored his 41 goals, right? He has twice not scored in 3 games and twice not scored in 4 games. So too streaky for me to be able to pull off what he needs. 29 goals in 34 games. I can't see it happening, and I don't wish this upon anybody, especially our young stars out there in the league. He's always due to get dinged up a little bit, and he's gonna miss a couple of games in there, I'm gonna say. So I can't see it. Am I rooting for it? 100%.
Same with me. Same with me.
But I can't see it happening with how streaky he is. What works against me is how streaky is. He's going to score 10 in the next 3 games.
Yeah. Well, here's the interesting thing. I mean, to show you how much the game has changed, I was doing some research. Imagine that, doing research for a show. Mike, 5 guys in 92, 93 had 60 or more that year.
Yeah.
14 guys, 14 had 50 or more, including a guy by the name of Steve Yzerman. It is amazing how much the game has changed in the last 31 years.
Well, if you look at, I, as you've taught me well, have done some research here too.
Right.
On the 8 guys that have done it, between 1981 and 1993, when it last happened, is when a chunk of them happened. If you can look here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 10 times, I think it happened. And then something happened right after that. It was 1995 in Jacques Lemaire. And Jacques Lemaire has coached a lot of things out of this league. And if you look at the scoring that has gone down since then, they've tried to get it back, but I mean, that was the peak of the scoring right there. Me and you joke all the time. I remember taking over 8.5 goals.
100%.
In a Pittsburgh Edmonton game.
100%.
And I hit it by a mile. Now it's 5.5. It's 6s. So the game changed in 1995 and it's never gone back.
It's always so funny. And here we're going to show our age again. I'm sure you remember Jacques Lemaire as a coach. Jacques Lemaire was a prolific offensive player, and he was part of those wagon hab teams that won 4 in a row. And it's amazing. I've always felt that people here in Detroit were too whiny about that 95 Devil team. And can I tell you why?
Go for it.
The point is to not entertain.
Right.
The point is to win.
Yep. And
I always felt people here whine too much about they were so boring. Oh my gosh. And to that I would say, wow, I hope I get over it during our Stanley Cup parade. You know what I mean?
But with that, they played the game right, Sean.
They did.
I'm sorry. I mean,
100%.
Clutching and grabbing became part of the game. But as far as boring, I want to say Claude Lemieux had 20, 22 goals in that playoff span, if I'm not mistaken.
It was Richer that led. I think Lemieux led in goals scored. Richer had the most points, if I'm not mistaken. I think he had like 24.
Now, I think what the Red Wing fans should whine about with that cup was just they were way too cocky going into that finals.
Oh,
they're practicing carrying the Stanley Cup around in the playoffs and stuff, if you remember.
Yep.
So, but that 1995 win by the Devils changed hockey forever.
100%.
It is fighting hard to get back, and we've got, McDavid scoring, 60 and 64 goals, respectively. Matthews scoring 60 goals. But we're not. I just can't see us seeing 70 in 82 games.
No. You know what? I'm going to say no as well, but I'm not going with the emphatic no. How's that?
Okay, that's good.
I'm not going with the emphatic no. I think it's just there's so many things that have to go right for him to get it, as you brought up, that I don't need to. But I'm not going with the emphatic because he really is a special player.
Oh, 100% he's special.
By the way, you and I were joking about something. Can I share this with everybody? Okay, so you guys have all accepted that Alex Ovechkin's not going to pass Gretzky, right? You guys,
how many does he have tonight?
Everybody out there, you guys have accepted that, right? I think he's 56 short now, right? Okay. And if you remember, we were talking about it the other day, and I said, of course, he's going to score at the Habs.
Yes,
and he scored against the Habs. Did he score again tonight?
He scored again tonight.
Wow. Oh, gosh, it's 2 in a row. So now he's 55 short, okay? Here's a guy that's going to be 39 in September. Okay. He's on pace for what? 18 this year now? I think he's on pace for 18. All right. He's not going to get 55 goals in the next year and a half. It's not going to happen.
Matthews is more likely to get 70 this season than he is to get 55, 56 more goals.
Father Time's unbeaten.
You just took it right out of my mouth.
I'm sorry.
Father Time, he is unbeaten, and when it hits you, sometimes it's slow and it's gradual, and you can see it coming. His hit hard this year. This is throwing everybody for a loop. Everybody thought he was going to do it. It was a sure thing. On the Father Time thing, because there's only one sports person I've ever seen defeat Father Time, and it was Barry Bonds.
Yes. Well. He was a pharmacy.
Yes, he was.
I mean, let's be honest.
Flaxseed oil.
Yeah, he was a pharmacy. Hey, I want to tell you about our other friends, and we always appreciate anybody who wants to be a part of this. This is so much fun. I'm having fun with Mike. I'm having fun with Blake. I'm having fun with Todd. Having fun with all of you guys as well. But there they are. Look at those two handsome fellas.
Yeah.
There's Mike on the left. There's Jeff on the right, our friends at the Wealth Advantage Group. Are you ready to take charge of your financial future? Look no further than the Wealth Advantage Group, located in historic downtown Northville, owned by the two brothers right there, Mike and Jeff, with over 20 years of industry experience. They understand that your financial goals are as unique as you are. That's why they differ with personalized expert guidance to help you navigate the complexities of financial planning, whether you are saving for retirement, getting ready to sell your company, or you're already in retirement. They can help you guide through every step of your financial journey. They work with clients throughout all stages of life and have clients in over 20 states. The investment world is complex, so if you are ready to start taking your finances more seriously, why don't you do what I did and contact my friends at the Wealth Advantage Group, 248-773-8574, or you can check them out at their website, www.thewealthadv.com. Can't thank Mike and Jeff enough. You know, a really cool thing is going on right now at USA Hockey Arena, Mike, and I remember telling you about it when I first saw it 7 years ago. It is the Five Nations tournament. And I'm going to say this again. You guys have probably heard me say it, but I think it bears repeating. There's a little something extra on the ice when you have your country's crest on your chest. There is. And as much as we love the OHL, that's my favorite league, I'm not going to lie. The National Hockey League, Stanley Cup playoffs, nothing better. There's a little something different in the building when you have your nation's crest across your jersey. And I'll tell you what, watching the opposing fans come in, like the Finnish fans were so much fun. And Lord knows there are so many Finlanders out in your neck of the woods, in Livingston County and everything. But Mike, a great tournament. If you have a chance to get out to USA Hockey Arena in the next couple of days, I highly suggest
Absolutely. It'll give you a taste for what we expect to see when the World Juniors comes to Minnesota.
Yeah.
Is it next year or in 2 years?
Next year.
Next year, when it comes to Minnesota. The European fans are just fanatics.
Yeah.
That's all you can say. They have the flags, they chant, and they do all that. But it's funny you bring up the wearing the crest, and it's something special. And it's on point, but not the same thing. The first thing I thought of, but first of all, how right you are, is when I got a chance to go over to Finland and Sweden and watch Olivia play.
Yeah.
And it was cool and everything. But when those girls came out and they were wearing the USA jerseys, and it wasn't a USA thing, it was just something they did from it hit you right here. It's awesome. Something a little bit special. Then they stepped on the ice with their West national team, and it was over. But but until the game started, it was pretty cool.
You know, people forget about Rob. I'm glad you brought that up. And here's a cool thing about like having a chat. It helps feed my ADD. If you've listened to me on the radio, you know how my brain bounces around. He said, "You meant Gordie Howe." I think people forget that, and forget about the Vipers thing, okay? But I think people forget that he came back to Hartford and back into the National Hockey League to play with, first in the WHA and then obviously in the National Hockey League, to play with his kids. And I still remember his last goal, plain as day. It was against the Habs in the playoffs. They played the Habs in the first round of the playoff, and I think he scored the only goal of the game in the deciding game. They got, poor Whalers got swept and everything. But I remember thinking at that time, I think he was 51. Don't quote me on that, but I think he was 51. I remember thinking at the time, oh my gosh, that's like older than my grandpa and everything.
Right.
And here he is scoring in the National Hockey League playoffs, for goodness sake, So Rob, you are right. We stand corrected. That is another guy that told Father Time, stop, just stop it right now. We are not going there. That 79-80 season. So pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And back to the Five Nations Cup, I pulled up the roster to see what it is. It's basically our US 06s, but being Michigan State guys, right? Austin Baker and Lucas Van Fleet, future Spartans, are out there playing. They got a point in the first game. It's a great chance to see those kids that are going to probably try to make that World Junior team coming up.
Absolutely. It is. And I'm telling you guys, the hockey is fantastic. And I get a kick out of watching Finland, like watching Finland practice in particular. Like I called a bunch of buddies I know who coach, and you know who you are. And I was like, you guys got to come watch their practice. And it was funny because they told me, we took a little bit about what they were doing, and we tried to do some of that because their puck movement is something that you can't put a price tag on it. And you know what? We've seen Heartland this year go into the high school ranks. Heartland moves the puck You could not believe how well Heartland moves the puck in the high schools. Mike, I think you'll vouch for this. There's Heartland, and then there's everybody else in regards to puck movement.
Absolutely. And it comes from that background. The Finlanders move the puck. They know how to play the game. They're playing it in their backyard like every young kid in Michigan should. And it translates onto the ice with the skill. I mean, I remember when Sebi was playing with the 06 Renegades, which was all Finns except for Sebi. I think they adopted him with his blue eyes and everything. But what they would do, what a lot of teams mistake with the Finland teams, is you try to get physical with them, and they would just dance right around them. I mean, Ian Castellano, come on.
Yeah, well, phenomenal. All right, that's going to do it for us. We have some special guests coming up the next few weeks, so we are going to be talking a lot. And to Todd and Blake, if you guys could put the graphic back on there, this is something that I am very, very happy to be a part of. Once again, make sure you get out to this. My goodness gracious, it is April 27th, 2:00. The Stanley Cup's going to be out there. Vladdy's going to be out there. Karen Newman's going to be out there. And remember, it's all for charity. So are you ready? I'm going to read this very quickly.
Oh, this was unbelievable.
Here are the guests that are scheduled to play right now. And I'm being told it's going to get better. Are you ready? Johnny O, Kevin Miller, Kelly Miller, Matt Hunwick, Darius Kasparaitis, Sergio Momesso, Ron Duguay, Tom Laidlaw, Corey Potter, Aaron Ward, Aaron Voros, King Henrik, Broadway Bernie, Dave Shaw, Mike Hartman, Craig Ninehouse, Marcel Dion, Doug Waite for the Wings, Patrick Eves, Eric Cole, Darren Helm, Dino Cicerelli, Matthew Dandino, Darren McCarty, Red Berenson, Yuri Fisher, Jakob Kindle, Mickey Redmond, Brent Fedek, Danny DeKaiser, Reed Larson, Eddie Mio, Darian Hatcher, John Blum. And like last year, there are going to be plenty of additions. I know my buddy Joe Neville has done such a great job putting these rosters together, and certainly it's going to continue to grow. So we'd love to see you out at Big Boy Arena. We want to make this like an alumni series. So the Wings played the Bruins. The Wings are going to play the Rangers. Who's next? Maybe the Hawks, maybe the Leafs, maybe the Habs. I would really like to go to Montreal to do a game and see some of the guys that I grew up cheering for. But, Mike, always a pleasure, my friend.
Yeah, always a pleasure with you, too. Thank you for having me again. And Ron Duguay, what can we say? Yeah. I mean, I think your aunt was pretty excited in the chat there, you know?
Yes, she was. Yes, she was. All right, for Mike Iversol, I'm Sean Belegian. Thanks to Todd. Thanks to Blake. Thanks to our friends at Legacy. Thanks to Wealth Advantage. Most importantly, thank you for joining us here on What the Puck.
What the Puck, featuring Sean Belegian. Produced by Todd Losey and Blake Matrazek. Executive produced by Sean Belegian and Todd Losey. Theme song and incidental music by Elliot Middleton. Engineering, mixing, and graphic design support provided by the Unsyndicated Podcast team. Don't forget to like and subscribe to What the Puck on all your favorite channels. While you're there, be sure to rate and review the podcast. Got something to say to Sean? Call the Unsyndicated hotline at 248-237-3257.